poor playing conditions can honestly derail an entire team's season.
Look back at MetLife on Sunday. What do you think about that turf?
You're out there warming up, and you could feel how bad the turf is, and then there's a lot of injuries, especially on our team.
Unfortunately, 1/3 of the league's playing fields are in pretty rough shape. So here's a look at the 10 worst NFL fields to play on right now. Soldier Field. You can't really expect much. Soldier Field is the oldest NFL venue, opening its doors way back when in 1924. The bad quality of the field itself is a sacrifice the organization has made in order to keep this historic building intact. We understand that. But the rich history of the venue doesn't excuse Soldier Field from this list. On the bright side, the Bears and Chicago city officials are making progress on a deal for a new home which will one day provide the players with a better playing surface. A 2015 Sports Illustrated article placed Soldier Field 28th in their stadium rankings. The venue uses the Kentucky bluegrass, which hasn't done much to help the field get into pristine shape. In 2012, beloved Chicago kicker Robbie Gould ripped apart the stadium field, saying the following quote, "I don't know what's happening. This year, our field has been really bad. It's been tore up. There are actually some places on the field where some portions of it have actually sunk to a new low level and the other sports are high. When the weather is freezing, and it quite often is in Chicago, it's easy for players to slip and lose their balance. And let's not forget the time when then Philadelphia Eagles wideout and former Bears receiver Alshon Jeffrey referred to the field as terrible. Yeah, better hope for a sunny day when it's game day at Soldier Field, because the rain and snow make this field borderline unplayable. FedEx Field. It's incredibly hard to believe that this stadium only opened in 1997. Given the quality and state of FedEx Field, you would think it's 50-something years old. But simply put, everything about the Washington Commanders franchise has gotten worse under their owner Dan Snyder. The stadium, crowd atmosphere, the team's on-field results, the off-field scandals, and on it goes. But even if you exclude all that and focus strictly on the playing surface, it is hard to find something much worse than FedEx Field. For years, football fans and pundits have poked fun at the field in the stadium. In fact, former Washington kicker Kai Forbath stated in 2015 that the team actually spray painted the field green to make it look better. During the 2017 campaign, then Washington QB Kirk Cousins said this about the field. "Yeah, it probably doesn't look like how a professional NFL field should, first of all." Cousins then pointed out that players seemed to slip on the playing surface more frequently as the season went on. In 2021, the venue finally began an upgrade by using Bermuda grass for the playing field. The hope is that it'll hold up through 2027 when the Commanders' lease on the stadium finally expires. According to Forbes, Snyder has a net worth of $4 billion. It really is too bad that the guy can't put some of that money towards a high-level field for his players. You know, the people who make him a significant portion of his income. Heinz Field. The home of the Pittsburgh Steelers opened in 2001, replacing the old Three Rivers Stadium. And yet, it didn't take all that long for Heinz Field to quickly rank among the players' least favorite playing surfaces. And don't go blaming Bane's destruction for the horrible field conditions either. Heinz Field was voted as the NFL's worst playing surface way before The Dark Knight Rises. As a part of a 2009 NFLPA poll which surveyed 1,565 players. That's a pretty big sample size if you ask us. Heinz Field uses the Kentucky bluegrass as its playing surface. The NCAA's Pittsburgh Panthers also play games here, so that adds even more wear and tear to this field. In 2010, both the Oakland Raiders and New England Patriots issued complaints about the field. So for a stadium that's barely 2 decades old, Heinz Field shouldn't have such a bad playing surface. But hey, it's at least somewhat better with the Kentucky bluegrass. Remember the so-called Mud Bowl game between the Steelers and Dolphins on Monday Night Football in 2007?
His punch. Brandon Field struggled earlier, got the wet ball away. Allen Rossum gonna let go. It's on a tee.
SoFi Stadium. Okay, looks-wise, SoFi Stadium is absolutely one of the most beautiful sporting venues in the entire world. But it also didn't take long for folks to raise concerns about the playing surface of SoFi, which uses artificial turf. Sadly, Rams receiver Odell Beckham Jr. suffered a torn ACL in Super Bowl 56 on a non-contact play. The San Francisco 49ers star Nick Bosa and Deebo Samuel were among those to rip the artificial turf after OBJ's brutal injury. In fact, after Bosa tore his ACL against the New York Jets in a 2020 game at MetLife Stadium, NFLPA President J.C. Tretter wrote the following about artificial turf in a post. Specifically, players have a 28% higher rate of non-contact lower extremity injuries when playing on artificial turf. Of those non-contact injuries, players have a 32% higher rate of non-contact knee injuries on turf and a staggering 69% higher rate of non-contact foot/ankle injuries on turf compared to grass. Being such a new stadium, it's crazy to think that SoFi is already raising concerns about the risk its artificial turf poses to the players. It may not be long before the Chargers and Rams are forced to invest some money into a safer playing surface. Highmark Stadium. The Buffalo Bills Stadium is the fourth oldest NFL venue, having opened in 1973. Only Soldier Field, Lambeau Field, and Arrowhead Stadium are older. But like Soldier Field, Highmark Stadium will likely be replaced at some point this decade. For now, however, the Bills and their opponents will have to deal with the lackluster state of the playing surface at Highmark Stadium. From 2003 to 2010, the stadium used AstroTurf before replacing it with A-Turf Titan 50. In 2019, it was announced that Erie County would pay $3 million to upgrade the field's playing surface. That counts for something, but it still isn't an ideal field by any means. That certainly counts for something, but it still isn't an ideal field by any means. Rain and snow aren't infrequent in Buffalo, so that makes the playing surface just all that much worse. It's simply hard for players to keep their balance and control if the weather conditions are unpleasant. Unlike a fine wine, an old playing surface just isn't going to age well, especially when the rain and snow come into play as often as they do in upstate New York. Ah well, like we said, at least the players won't have to deal with Highmark Stadium's brutal field conditions for that much longer. Lambeau Field. Make no mistake, Lambeau Field is one of the most iconic sporting venues in the entire world. There is so much history to take in there, and the Cheeseheads always provide an electrifying atmosphere. But if you focus on the quality of the field itself, well, we gotta be real. It is less than ideal in this day and age. Now, this much is to be expected, seeing as how the stadium opened in 1957. Lambeau is pretty well maintained too, but boy is the so-called frozen tundra in need of some upgrades. When it freezes up during the ice-cold Wisconsin winters, Lambeau Field becomes a lot tougher to play on. You can see on TV just how rock-hard the playing surface is. And when it snows or rains, well, good luck maintaining your footing on that tundra. Thankfully, the installation of the Kentucky Bluegrass turf has made this playing surface much more playable than in previous years. And I guess that's all you can really ask for from a 70-year-old stadium with as much history as Lambeau. AT&T Stadium. Love or hate the Dallas Cowboys, there's simply no denying that Jerry's World is one of the most beautiful sports venues. The stadium is used for plenty of non-football sporting events and concerts as well, even hosting WWE WrestleMania in 2016 and 2022. The Cowboys use an artificial product called Hellas Matrix Turf. Though it's considered to be one of the best artificial turf systems in the world, it simply doesn't cut it for NFL players. Because as we previously noted, players are simply more prone to injury on these artificial turfs. Well, I guess it also should be noted that AT&T Stadium was chosen as one of the venues for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. So here's to hoping the stadium holds up for this big-time international competition. Lumen Field. The Seattle Seahawks and the Seattle Sounders of MLS play at Lumen Field, which uses the Field Turf product. There has been plenty of criticism regarding the use of field turf over the years. The initial discussions called for the stadium to use natural grass, but there were concerns about the natural grass potentially costing Seattle an MLS team. So anyway, the field turf was installed at what is now called Lumen Field. Soccer icon David Beckham is among the most notable personalities to have ripped the quality of field turf though. A study by epidemiologist Zach Benet in 2018 found that the Seahawks' home venue is actually the most dangerous playing surface in the entire league. I want you to think about that for a second now. Artificial turf is much more risky than real grass, but the field turf that Lumen Field uses is especially dangerous for players. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be any indication that they're going to change this anytime soon. Arrowhead Stadium. As previously noted, the Kansas City Chiefs' home venue is the third oldest in football. The stadium itself has been well maintained over the years, but the playing surface obviously isn't that great. That's what you have to expect from a stadium that's half a century old. Since 1994, the football team has used latitude 36 Bermuda grass as their field turf. The problem is that the field quality especially suffers during the freezing conditions in Kansas City. When the snow and rain come pouring down, the Bermuda grass isn't exactly designed to absorb it adequately. But hey, if you're on the Chiefs, it's an advantage in that you've already become used to playing on lackluster field conditions. Not all your opponents can say the same thing. MetLife Stadium. Both the New York Giants and the New York Jets moved into MetLife Stadium in 2010. Fast forward more than a decade later, however, and it is easy to understand why this is such a despised playing surface for rival players. The 49ers visited the Jets at MetLife in Week 2 of the 2020 season before playing the Giants at the same venue a week later. As many of you may recall, the defending NFC champs were hit hard by the injury bug over that 2-week period, losing both Nick Bosa and Solomon Thomas for the year with torn ACLs. Jimmy Garoppolo also injured his ankle, which essentially derailed the 49ers season. The 49ers even decided to sit superstar tight end George Kittle for Week 3 due to concerns over the turf. San Francisco head coach Kyle Shanahan expressed that his team was worried about the turf right away, and understandably so.
And that's as many knee injuries and ankle stuff and people getting caught on a turf as I've ever been a part of. From what I saw, the other team did too. I know our players talked about it the entire game, just how sticky the turf was, and I think that was the first time people played on it, I think. But yeah, it was something our guys were concerned about right away, and the results definitely made that a lot stronger. And unfortunately, it's a place we got to go back to next week.
The then Giants corner Logan Ryan also expressed concern over the field during the 2021 season. Meanwhile, Philadelphia Eagles center Jason Kelce cited the playing surface as the reason why MetLife is his least favorite stadium. Now, no changes are reportedly in the works as of yet, which is a big shame. The 2020 season alone should have prompted team and local city officials to make some changes at MetLife, but it seems like there's no sign of them coming in the immediate future. But what do you think would be the worst NFL field to play on? Join us in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.